Are you applying to a PhD program? Well, one question that applicants often ask is whether or not they should reach out in advance to a potential advisor. Are there any pitfalls to that? Are there any possible negative repercussions of that? And does it help you during the application process to stand out? I'm going to address all of that inside the video. If you're new here, my name is Tom Mullaney. I'm a professor of history at Stanford University, and this channel is dedicated to navigating academia at all levels. If you're thinking of writing an email to a potential master's or PhD advisor, here are some things that you're going to want to keep in mind, and it's just some tips. First, for the original email that you send out, strive to keep it short. At this moment, the person on the other end of that email, i.e. this professor at this university, doesn't know who you are. Your email is coming completely out of the blue, and so it's a good idea not to go on for screens and screens worth of self-description. I would try to limit your email to no longer than 3 paragraphs. You can say a little bit about who you are, where you currently are, your areas of research interest and foci, but you do not want to give an essay all about everything about your potential research project. It's too soon. Secondly, and related, do not under any circumstances attach anything to that initial email. This is just good practice in general. If you're reaching out and cold calling someone, you never want to attach your honors thesis or something heavy because it places a strange and sort of inappropriate burden upon the recipient that they're going to read it. Sometimes you receive emails that say, I've attached my honors thesis, if you could take a look at it. And it's like, no, I don't think I can take a look at it right now. That's not because we're not nice people. It's just because time is what it is. And, our primary obligation at this moment is to our current students, our current advisees, among other parts of the job. And so it's just not a reasonable expectation that someone is going to carve out a lot of time from their schedule to read a writing sample or something from someone that they have quite literally never met. Now, if you do establish some sort of rapport by way of a short email with a potential advisor, and if they've given any indication that they might be willing to read through something, then of course, by all means, there's not a prohibition against doing that. Just don't do it in that initial cold call email. A third really key thing is that you should spend a lot of time studying the person you are writing to. It is screamingly obvious when someone is simply shotgunning or mail merging these kinds of emails out. I've received messages from people interested in ancient China and Zhou Dynasty bronzes, and it's like, wow, you just don't know how Google works. I couldn't be farther away from what I work on. And not only is it just a waste of your time, a waste of their time, but it actually dings you. Like if I get an email like that, I don't think to myself, interesting, let me forward this to my colleague who does work on this area. It makes me think, wow, the person writing to me is a bit immature, doesn't respect other people's times, doesn't put in the effort, and therefore is not really a serious candidate at all. And so I am definitely not going to bother any of my colleagues by forwarding this to them. So do the homework and make sure that the person on the other end of that email is actually an appropriate recipient, i.e. is a good potential fit or match for you were you to enter a graduate program. A fourth and related thing is that, and this is a little bit unfair, many department and program websites are notoriously bad at explaining what their different faculty actually work on. And there's a very simple reason for that. Many websites these days add tags to various faculty saying that, if I click on it, it'll show me everyone that works on gender and sexuality, or everyone that works on transnational history or Asia or whatever. I know for myself that I have like a dozen of these tags associated with me. And so I will show up on, I forget, I won't use a particular tag, but I will show up in a list of faculty who work on a particular subject alongside people who quite literally that's what they do 24/7. And so between them and me, they're the ones you want to reach out to, not me. But because so many of these websites are organized according to these thematic tags, chances are that there's almost like a grade inflation. If most faculty will just simply say, well, I don't want to, be excluded from this because I do kind of work on this area or that area. So yeah, I'll go ahead and check that box. It doesn't cost me anything. But when you, the potential applicant, go to the website thinking, okay, I'm going to find out everything I can about these faculty member based upon these thematic categories, just know that chances are there are a lot of people that are in categories that they have only a toe in that pool, whereas other people in that category are like swimming there and have been swimming there their entire career. So unfortunately, you can't just go on the department or program website to figure out what people work on. You're going to actually have to do some more serious work. This might be trying to get hold of their writings, Google Scholar, JSTOR, Project Muse if you have access, a variety of other, read their writings and really get a sense of them. Now that might sound like, wow, that's a lot of homework, but grad school is a lot of homework, and so is choosing a potential mentor. So you might as well do that work now rather than later if it is your desire to reach out to someone and try to lay the groundwork for hopefully a mentorship relationship. Just do the homework now. Fifth, I think it's on number 5, I've lost track, is make it genuine. I realize that you do have to cover your bases and increase your odds of being accepted to some programs. So therefore, you're going to apply to more rather than fewer programs. But do your best to actually find people in these different programs who you genuinely would be interested in working on. You know their work, you admire their scholarship, you want to learn to write and think the way that they do, maybe not on the same topics, but you admire their minds, you admire their writing. And then let that shine through in your email. Genuine desire to work with someone shows through, it reverberates. It's the opposite of that mail merge shotgun feeling that many of us get when it's clear the email has nothing to do with us. But really do your best to try to find a good potential match and then speak from the heart about why you find that person's scholarship interesting and why you're drawn to the program to apply to. Sixth, and very importantly, you want to avoid the following kinds of sentences in your email. Would you advise me? ? Is this something that you would like to advise? Meaning your thesis. These are extremely awkward and premature questions. This is a little bit like being on a first date and saying like, well, this is my background and, this is my job. Is this someone you would consider marrying? It's just like, whoa, slow down. Not only is this way too early to be asking that question, it kind of also indicates you don't really understand how a program works, and that again gets to the issue of maturity and so forth. But more importantly, it also is totally at odds with the way that graduate admissions in most places work. It's not as if I have just some pot of money in my account and I get applications for people to work with me and I say like, ooh, I want them and them and them and them, like I'm going into a candy shop and I can just, admit whoever I want. When someone asks me like, would you advise me, quite bluntly like that, or is this something you would want to advise? It indicates that the person doesn't realize that most admissions happen on a committee level, at a departmental level sometimes. I mean, in the case of Chinese history, my primary field, we have people apply to the history department at Stanford. These programs, typically through self-selection, are categorized into the various subfields of history. So East Asian history, history of science and technology, whatever it might be, American history, European history, etc. And then within those fields, there are multiple faculty. In East Asian history, there are at least 6 faculty. And as a body, we deliberate and decide who in the pool of applicants we might want to admit that year. So it's not as if I say like, okay, here is my person. And then everyone's like, okay, go ahead and admit them. And then my colleague in Korean history or Japanese history say, and I want this person, I want this person. It's not that individualized where we can just admit whoever we want. In my case, I typically get to admit somewhere in the order of one candidate every, 3 years, 2 years, 4 years. Most of the time, it's about having conversations about candidates who would work with colleagues of mine in East Asian history. And so the reason I bring that up is it's always better when an applicant understands how an admissions process really works. You're better suited to the admission, better suited to writing an application, and you're also better suited to understanding the kinds of questions you should ask when you write to a potential advisor in advance. If someone says to me, "Would you advise me?" and that bluntly, I think to myself, again, this person doesn't know how graduate school works, and therefore I would be very hesitant to use my one slot every 3 years, like that rarity of admissions, on this person. I would probably consider a different candidate. So all told, I would say that in general, if done well, it is a very, very good idea to write to a potential advisor in advance. For one thing, it is true that it's difficult to stand out from the pack, especially when there's so many talented applicants. And there's just no question about it sociologically that if you've had a conversation, if you've had some sort of interaction with somebody, when you go into the pile of applications, you're going to see that file as compared to someone who you've never met, you don't know who they are. And this is a 6-7 year relationship that you're talking about. It's actually a career-long relationship. So there's undoubtedly a sociological boost. And for you, you're interviewing me and you're interviewing whoever it is that you might want to work with. So it's good for you to know, like, okay, after talking to that person, I'm not sure, or yes, I'm totally sure. So all told, if done well, it is a very, very good thing to do as part of your MA or PhD application. Done badly, though, it can be an application killer. So make sure to get a lot of advice on how to approach a potential advisor. Don't just start shotgunning messages out, because you could inadvertently destroy all of your chances at all of the places that you send these emails to, even before you submit an application. And that, of course, would be tragic. So just some tips to keep in mind when you're applying to MA programs and PhD programs. If you got something out of this video, please give it a like. It matters a lot. Subscribe would be even better, and share it with people who might benefit. I'll see you in the next video.